Today we are going to be reviewing Dead Until Dark, the first book in the Sookie Stackhouse series. The subtitle is A Southern Vampire Novel. For those of you who don't know, this is the book that inspired the HBO show True Blood. I would never read... Okay. No judgment for any of you who do read these. I would never read this of my own accord. This is actually my mom's copy. She loves this kind of stuff. But I had to read it for a class, analyzing the grotesque and the monstrous in literature. As more of a contemporary example. So, I do watch the show True Blood. I watched the whole thing, and I enjoyed it. The book's a little different, and I know as the series of books progresses and the show progresses, they're very different. I won't read any more of the books because I didn't like it. So, if that's all you're here for, I didn't like it. But to talk about it a little, it is interesting because it is kind of a departure from certain vampire tropes in that it's about poor vampire. Well, the vampires aren't necessarily poor, but we're taking the setting. We looked at like ancient Greek vampires, and then we looked at like Dracula, and then some werewolf myths because werewolves and vampires started out as the same thing. So that was interesting. And then kind of transporting, we went from Dracula, like Eastern Europe and Britain, England, and then you move all the way to the American South, modern day. That was an interesting transition. One of the most interesting parts of the novel is that they pretty much, Charlaine Harris, positions the vampires as a metaphor for the LGBTQIA, I think is the whole thing, community, in that the vampires, and there's a lot of parallels drawn between vampires and like homosexuals and the way they're treated, especially in the South, which is really interesting, and some of them are well done, and a lot of it's very ham-fisted. I think Charlaine Harris, without trying to be nasty or vindictive, and this is no judgment on anyone who likes the book, when I compare her to some of the other authors I've read recently, like Sandra Cisneros, or Salinger, or Hemingway, or Faulkner, or I'm reading Toni Morrison right now. You can really tell the difference in the quality of writing between those people and her. That's not to say that her writing's bad. I just think it's not as good as them. It's definitely a little more clunky with the use of metaphor and things. There's also an interesting current going through it of it being a very problematic romance novel, almost echoing themes of domestic violence in the interactions between Bill and Sookie, in that Sookie even says she spends most of the time with Bill unconscious, and it's not always because he's like actively beating her or hitting her or anything, but there's a lot of violence just surrounding their whole relationship. And so I think it's an interesting topic of conversation to think about it that way. And I'm not asserting that their relationship is a domestically violent relationship. I'm just saying there seems to be aspects of it there. It's also very interesting to look at how the vampires play into the tropes of vampire literature. We're talking about like they drink the blood, they are can't go out in the sun. One of the differences, they are out in the open, which seems to be more of a contemporary trend. We have that in different novels. And, they're a little bit more humane, I guess. They're not inherently evil, more just vicious or violent. All in all, they've got interesting ideas. I would suggest watch the show rather than read the novel. I think I gave it 1, maybe 2 stars on Goodreads. Anyway, yeah, not great. But if you're into that sort of thing, more power to you. If you have any interesting thoughts about Dead Until Dark or the other books in the Sookie Stackhouse series, feel free to tell me down below. I'd love to hear about it. As always, happy reading and have a good life.